You are a content creator and you've been presented with a contract from a client, or you're about to renegotiate a contract with a client because they're coming to you for more work. First, congratulations. It's always great to be booked for a gig or to land a job, so super well done. And you're presented with a task that may feel a bit daunting, whether because the agreement or the document you were sent is long or is written in a language that is not as accessible as you'd like. Sometimes we call that legalese, and I think that very often is well deserved. Contracts could definitely do better at being written clearly in plain language in a way that everybody understands, especially everybody that does business with it understands. But now let's turn to the three things you need to look out for and pay attention to when you're renegotiating a contract as a content creator working on a freelance basis, commission basis, or contract basis. If that's you, listen up. Number one, look at your intellectual property transfer. In your contract, this will often show up under the headings rights, transfer, assignments, buyouts, license. Those are usually the key words used to describe this term or this part of your contract that will include the terms and conditions applicable to the intellectual property rights that you've generated, that you own, and you will give access to or ownership over or permission to your client. And on this particular topic, I would always recommend you ask for a license of your intellectual property rights and other rights rather than an assignment. That's the difference between a license or a buyout. And if we want to put it in very simple terms, licensing your work is the equivalent of renting it, whilst if you agree to a buyout, you will be selling your work, very much like you have a difference between renting a house and selling a house. Licensing is better because you retain more control in the future. You need to make sure your licensing terms include a specific project, a specific duration, a limited duration, and specific usage, the amount of times, frequency, format, or technology modes that your clients will be using, sharing, and distributing your work. That needs to be very clear in a contract and preferably written as a license, not an assignment. If you cannot negotiate your way out of a buyout, do make sure the buyout is specific on the usage of the work so that it is possible that your client will need to come back to you in order to use your work outside the context. But for that, nothing protects you better than a well-written license. So I encourage you to ask for a license instead of an assignment. And if you need to know the difference between a license and an assignment, look up for other video content I've created on this topic. So that was tip number one. Look out for the terms of your intellectual property rights and other rights transfer. Opt for a license wherever possible, not an assignment. Now let's go to tip number two. Regardless of whether you've agreed to an assignment or a license, if the contract you're about to make relates to a project that has nothing to do with AI synthesization, data mining, performance cloning, voice cloning, or anything like that, then make sure your contract includes a clause that prevents your clients from using your work on AI for AI training purposes or AI cloning, synthesization, etc., without your consent. And use what we call an AI clause. If you would want to receive, if you don't know what an AI clause is, go to my website, mathildepavis.com, and go and grab your free AI clause and the guide that comes with it in order to use one, get familiar with what it is, and start inserting it in every new contract you make with clients, as well as insert it into your terms of business. That is the best thing you can do today in order to protect your business interest as well as artistic interest from AI. If you're not interested in having your content using and to support research and development in this space or being used without your consent outside of the original project or context that you created the content for, which is absolutely understandable and always the starting point I encourage freelancers and artists to adopt in any case. So tip number 2, make sure your contract includes an AI clause if the work or project with the client does not involve AI synthesization and is a project about an entirely different collaboration and technology altogether. Number 3, usage and remuneration. Make sure that the remuneration in your contract includes 2 components. First, your time in the studio, your time creating, your time recording, your time prepping, your labor needs to be remunerated at your appropriate fee and usual fee, right? You price that according to the challenging aspects of the project, your skills level, etc. And the second component that your remuneration needs to include is usage. Usage refers to the fee that you're entitled to when your intellectual property gets used by others. So the clients, for example, would be that if you're working with an intermediary, that may be the end client in that particular project that will be using your work. And that is in effect what we call royalties in a context of copyright. And that may apply to you if you work in a medium that attracts copyright protection. If you're a voiceover, if you're a performer, an actor, a musician, a performing musician, you will have rights like performers' rights or image rights and publicity rights from which you can also charge royalties for usage, very much like an author, writer, or music publisher would charge royalties for usage of their scores, of their writings, of their novels, poems, etc. So tip number 3, make sure that your contracts provide remuneration for both your labor, the time spent in a studio, as well as for usage, the usage of your intellectual property and other rights by the end client. And that usage should be proportionate, meaning that if your work is going to be used for a long period of time, then the usage fee should be higher. If the work is going to be used in all territories rather than just regionally or within one country, if it includes multiple countries worldwide, that will be the case if it's released online, for example, then the fee should be proportionately high. And if it's going to run for a short time, then the fee will typically be smaller, etc. So it should be proportionate regardless of the usage, the technology, the context, the project, or the client. Those are 2 really important basics. Remunerate your labor and your usage. Make them appear as separate lines in your budget and do a little bit of education for your client if you get questions on that point. No need to be combative. It's a perfectly fine question. Not everyone can be well versed in the law or in all of the industry standards that they work in because we all have busy lives, right? And we all learn every day. Every day is a school day. Even for me, I learn every day about new areas of laws, new interpretation of the law, new cool stuff that my clients get up to, new technology, everything. And that's what I like about it. And chances are very high you will be in that position too, and so will your clients. So be patient, explain yourself, and chances are the negotiation will carry even better. So here are the top 3 tips and things you should look out for if you're renegotiating your contract. Again, just to sum up, number 1, your intellectual property terms. Look up what they are, agree, and put forward a license over an assignment every time you can. Number 2, if the project is not related to AI, data mining, or synthesization or cloning, then insert a clause that will prevent your client from reusing your content outside of the scope of the particular project you've agreed on, so that you get to reconsent or give permission if they want to use it to train AI model or algorithms in the future. Number 3, remunerate both your labor and your usage. Make sure that the time you spend creating, recording is paid according to your fees, as well as the royalties or usage fees that you're able to charge, because your content will be used again and again and again on repeat for a number of times, or for a duration of months, years, or more by your client. And that's it. Good luck with the negotiations. Do let me know if you found this helpful. If you like more content like this, go to mathildepavis.com, my website, and sign up to my newsletter. You can follow me on social media. I do my very best to answer every question I get from listeners and viewers, especially when I get more than one question or more of the same question again and again. This is how I know I can make a video on this topic and that will help a lot of people. So whenever and every time you comment, you're helping someone else. So thank you so much for listening and following my work. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments, the DMs, or by email.